and welcome to the Geomologist Presents podcast. So, I'm going to attempt to recap the games I played, not that I ran, over the weekend, and then got a lot of calls, mainly from Jason Connerly, but Joe Richter chimes in there somewhere, and these are not about our Portal world. We're going to table that for another time. But these are about other various things, though Jason goes into pantheons. He has about 4 minutes worth of talk on pantheons, so definitely worth a listen. I comment after, so I hope you enjoy. Let's get on with those recaps. Honestly, I think I'm going to put two of the recaps together and then talk about the other, because two of the games were variations of D&D 5e. The first game I played in was Friday, our ongoing World of Warcraft game that is run by Kevin Madison. It is the Warcraft variant. It's called Warcraft Heroes for 5e. And in that game, I play a warlock. The game is called Weird Tales in Westfall, and you can see the actual play in Kevin Madison's Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. And, well, our heroes, the other game that I'm going to talk about is also run by Kevin Madison. You can see that on Dungeon Musings, and that one is set in the Ravnica 5e world, published by Wizards of the Coast. And that is called Down and Out in Precinct 6. So both are really super fun games, and I will say that in the first game, already I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the headline and the punchline. A character died in the World of Warcraft 5e game. So we had just fought this huge battle with a bunch of gnolls. Somehow we had sent them packing. I think the GM was being nice. We were getting overrun. We took down maybe enough of the leadership that their morale broke. They are gnolls after all, laughing hyena men. Very interestingly, they're one of the enemies that you fight early on in the game, along with kobolds and trogs. So yeah, so gnolls. So we're in the Elwyn Forest. We haven't even made it to Westfall. We had this big fight in the Elwyn Forest with gnolls, and we want to leave. We want to get out of here, get to some sort of civilization. We know there's a fort at the border between Westfall and the forest, so we keep going as fast as we can. The players there that were there were myself, Billy Dean, Hosen Hammer, and the other two characters were, I will get you their names here very shortly. So we also had James Crowley, who is a priest, human priest, and Enric Darenthal, he was a human paladin. And we just wanted to get out. Right. So we're at the whim of random encounters. And it looks like those happened. The first one that happened was another fight with the gnolls. They tried to fleece us for money. Maybe we should have paid the toll, but it just didn't work out that way. They were insulted by something that we said. I mean, my character has already lost his Voidwalker, and I have to spend the money to summon a new one. That's kind of how it works in the game. So they can't just, die and summon and die and summon. There's got to be a cost, and that is the cost. So we fight these gnolls. We had found some magic items in the previous cache against the gnolls, and I actually had to use one of those magic items, which turned out really well because it killed the two spellcasters. There's three of us, and then there were two spellcasters, two brutes, and a leader. And it was a hard-fought battle. We were really beat up. We take a rest to get, some health back. The good thing about warlocks is that after a short rest, they get all their stuff back, which is helpful. That night, when we had camped before we took off, there was an earthquake, or maybe it was after this fight. We took a break and we decided to camp, and then there was an earthquake, and during the night. But then when we decided to move on, right, I think that's what happened. So we fought these big gnolls. We kind of surveyed the fight. We moved a little bit forward, and there was another encounter with gnolls. So I think that's how it happened. It's all very vague. It was about 4 days behind me now, right? So anyway, I don't quite recall the sequence events. I just know that after the earthquake, when we were trying to get out of there, out of the Elwynn Forest, we came across this group of buzzards, and buzzards are very common in Westfall, but had been driven by this earthquake event into the forest, and they swarmed us, and it was like an ambush. We didn't have really time to react, and they were upon us. They had this mechanic where they get bonuses or an advantage to attack if they're ganged up or have an adjacent ally, and they took full advantage of that. And we fought hard, we fought well. The cleric, Enric, fell. It was just, we were down, they were healing each other. It was down to our last. I had been picked, I had fallen unconscious, been picked up, was being carried away, got healed, stabbed the creature that was attacking me, but I stabbed with the dagger because I'd lost my rapier. We were taking him out maybe one at a time. We finally started to take him out, but then it was just too little too late, I guess, and the two characters had fallen. I cast a spell, and I killed one, injured another, and then I moved away. It came towards me, and then I think this was, if I had missed this attack, there would have been a TPK, because both of the other players were down, and one was, they were doing their death saves as what happens in 5e. So they were both at one death save, two death saves actually, and one character had been making them, one character had been missing both of them. So I killed the one that was on me. I was shocked. I stabbed with the dagger and did damage, and then I was running to try to help stabilize the paladin who I knew was dying, but I got there too late, and that character or that player, when they rolled, failed their death save and expired. So that was a death in the Elwynn Forest, an ignominious death for a potentially powerful paladin killed by buzzards, not even in Westfall. But, it really was a fun game. It makes you really think. It's a tough, I think the Dungeon Master shared with us that he's not re-evaluating what he throws at us. He is evaluating how he's going to reward or not for us, because he had thought about milestones, but it's just, it's just the way it goes sometimes. Anyway, that's it for that one. And then in Ravnica, we're in this tower underneath the big city of Ravnica. We're finally exploring the tower. We're in this sort of garden-like section, and my character the last time was kind of out, but now is there, and we switched for another player who was not there. So his character then became kind of in this dreamlike state, kind of captured by the vegetation in this strange part of the tower. So the players had decided that we were going to go back up to all the people who were kind of out of it. When we start making our way up, we have two encounters. The first one was with these creatures that phase through walls and have arms and shoot lightning. But that battle went pretty well. My character just got into it and was finally able to rage before the combat, so we weren't surprised like last time. And that helped. That one round of mitigating damage is so important. So I think he killed like all three of them effectively, while the other players kind of ran around. One player, I don't know. I know players want to play their characters the way they play, but one player, we had fought these creatures before and we knew that they were healed by lightning, but the player decided to use Shocking Grasp on one. Oh, that's the way my character is. He's absent-minded. Okay. Thanks. I don't know. What do you guys feel about that? Do you buy? I've heard time and time again that players don't buy this. Well, that's the way my character would act. When really it might be about paying attention to what's been going on. In any case, I think that player made up though for it. Maybe felt bad. Maybe that wasn't quite true, and they had just forgot. But they made up for it in the next fight because we ran into this bull demon again. I think his name. I'll give you his name. Hold on. It's just imagine this like minotaur demon named Garsuth that we'd encountered before, and I guess we'd encountered him when we were pretty beat up, and we ran, and the characters I guess admonished my character for holding the line or wanting to fight, but eventually it was the creature definitely hit hard. I think we were surprised, and I was not able to rage in the first round. It has fire, it causes fires, but what really hurt us a lot is that it could heal itself with these it would create these fires like we were in a library, plenty of kindling, and then it would heal itself by absorbing the fires, which was just very demoralizing. So this time this Garsuth appeared, we were like, well, let's get out of here. He'd created some fires, and I thought we were going to run. I asked, are we running? We were running, but one of the players had his character go there and try to do a thunder wave, which didn't work. And then he got hit, and then there was my character was holding for a little bit, and the other character was trying to avoid the encounter as well. The other player was trying to avoid the encounter as well. This is I think he's an artificer, and so the player that hit the thunder wave is actually a Loxodon named Vasul. He is a bard, and the other character is Dr. Cardinal, Iago Cardinal, who is an alchemist. And so not frontline fighters. Anyway, eventually we had to face Garsuth, since Vasul went down, and from my character's point of view, Vasul is the only my point of view, Vasul and my character Trovik is the only one who thinks Vasul is his friend, if that makes sense. So seeing Vasul go down, Trovik rages and charges, and then actually starts hitting. And then Dr. Cardinal hit this fire creature with cold, and that hella worked. And we got some confidence. It took a few rounds. I held the line, and we took this guy out, and I was surprised. I guess that's the way 5e goes. It's just if you play tactics and get a bit of luck, do some good damage. I was chopping this thing left and right with my axe and horns, and even though I was getting burned, and I was probably less than 50% of my health. But the thing is, I was at full health, and I was able to rage first. And even though I took the fire damage in full, I took the piercing and slashing damage at half, which really helps when you're a barbarian raging. And it was a crazy fight, and we won. So there are the ups and downs of D&D 5e. In the first game, overwhelmed by pack tactics, one of our number fell. And in this case, I think the role was reversed. We pack tacticked this bull demon thing, Garsuth, and took it down. And that was surprising. And we were like, wow, can't believe we did that. So anyway, those are my two 5e games for the week. And now I'm going to talk about the other game that I played, which which is not 5e, which was a very cool game. And that game, I guess I'm running these all together in one segment, so you can't skip. Ha, everyone. So I'm running these all together in one segment. And the last game we played was a game of Achtung Cthulhu, and we played the first adventure in the Shadows of Atlantis epic adventure path that was put out for, I think, combination of Savage Worlds, maybe Fate, and 6th or 7th edition of Call of Cthulhu for Achtung Cthulhu. But this one, Kevin Madison, again, you can see it on the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel, the actual play, ran it with the Achtung Cthulhu 2D20 system from Modiphius, and I think it really works. My guy, so I'll introduce the characters here. So I play Maso Di Pietro, and he is a infiltrator, British agent. He owns a cafe. Where are all our characters? So it's a pretty fun character to play. He's a bruiser. The other players who do not have podcasts, I will not tell you their names, although one is a published author in our gaming community. The other players played one Professor Tobias Fischer, who is a German occultist, and the last one was Maximilian Weber, who was an English con artist, so also a British agent. And it was, I think the system worked really well. The 2D20 system, it's a give and take, the momentum, the meta currency you have these fortune points as well, that you can get like free successes on. But it was good. We started in a cafe I'm the front man for the cafe. Some scientists have gone missing, dying strangely in the winter by exposure. I guess that could happen in the Austrian mountains around Vienna, but it's dubious. So we know some of the people who have passed away. Max Weber is especially connected because he had a bad romance with the widow of one of the scientists who passed away. And we know that this woman, Gisela is a German agent. So she comes into the place, and her and Max have an exchange. She gives him some information. She's definitely being followed by other agents and is being trailed. The most fun thing there is that Maso and Professor Tobias kind of, Professor wants to follow the man or the woman as they leave after they give the information, but Maso intercepts them and acts silly and spills coffee on them so that the man who's trailing this woman kind of loses interest because we're silly Italian folk, or my character is at least. So we find out that this woman wants to meet and give more information to Max, meet at the big Ferris wheel carnival place here in Vienna, which I thought was kind of cool. So my character, I got to dress up as a clown, hide in the crowd, juggle and all that kind of stuff. And then as Max was meeting Gisela and Professor Tobias was watching our backs in a way, trying not to get too crazy and involved, I got to go around and off the Nazi sympathizers. So if you can imagine, very scarily, and I got to say, "Are you afraid of clowns?" before I would strangle. I actually killed 3 Nazis. Strangled one. I stabbed one, and I smashed one's face with a bowling pin that might have been juggling, and then I was able to ditch my costume and we had an escape route that was planned. So it's kind of neat. You can establish, much like in Fate, you can establish like I forgot what they're called in Fate, but they call it a truth that gives you a bonus dice in this game. So that was be able to give us a bonus situation or lowers or increases the difficulty of a situation. These truths do. So you can lower the number of dice you need, which can really help in a situation. So normally you roll 2 dice, and you can, based on talents or whatever, you can maybe add a few dice. We gave we gave the GM plenty of the equivalent of what's called threat in this game, his meta currency. So and that came back to almost bite us in the end. Anyway, so Max and Gisela meet again. She drops a purse and leaves him some more clues. We meet up in the tunnels beneath Vienna. They have like a much like Paris. Vienna has like an underground with an extensive tunnel system, and there's a catacombs and the like sewer. So we're meeting there, discussing what we found. Professor Tobias had spotted a rival, but potentially Nazi sympathizer scientist with a dog that seemed to be very much under, or there was a bond between this man. His name was Gotthold Fuchs. So we got some clues that we're going to go to this place, the Sphinx Reading Club, or a person who's part of that, to find some more material that her Gisela's husband, who passed away, Einrichmann, he had found some information about the origin of the Aryan race. Interesting. I know we're going to probably try to stop these Nazis from trying to find it before we do. But at the end here in the tunnels, well, that dog, Otto, I think the dog's was, tracked us down, and we stopped there. But I think it was really good. My character got to dress as a clown and kill Nazis, which I was very happy with. It was really fun, and I really do like Achtung Cthulhu. I definitely plan to run. They have some offerings for free offerings. They have one, I think I got one for free RPG Day, but I also have the PDF of it. So I definitely want to run that. And I've been wanting to run Achtung Cthulhu or a World War II themed COC type game, pulp action and the like. So yeah, that could be coming soon to a place near you. All right, well, that's it for the recaps for the weekend. Again, it's a weekend at Kevin's. It's like Weekend at Kevin's, the sequel. But watch out for clowns. That's all I'm going to say.
Yo, Carl, awesome recap of the DCC game, man. That sounds really fun. If it wasn't so early in the morning my time, I'd be sorely tempted to join up. But anyway, yeah, I'm really excited to play some DCC with you finally. This coming Thursday, like the day after tomorrow, we're going to run through a DCC funnel. I've never played DCC. I've never done a funnel, and I'm excited. I rolled up my characters last night with Jason. One of them has really, really good stats and 1 hit point. A couple of them only have 1 hit point. The first dude I rolled up had shit stats, but he has 4 hit points. And then for the professions, I rolled up a wallflower, a heartthrob, a karate expert, and a political activist. So I am pumped to see some teenage kids get murdered in a role-playing game, not in real life. Peace out.
One of us, one of us, one of us. Yes, Joe, come and join the DCC revolution. No, actually, I'm very excited to play. My characters didn't add moderate stats. Stats don't matter. None of them have 1 hit point. They have 2 or 3 hit points, which is kind of cool. But I rolled a friendless Mitfit who has a jar of miscellaneous live insects and a magnifying glass. That's kind of how I was in junior high. Anyway, a class clown with a whoopee cushion and a buzz shock ring. A lifeguard who has a whistle and a Speedo. He probably is buddies with your karate guy. And then a young Republican. He has a copy of Atlas Shrugged, a book on tape, and a pocket-sized photo of Ronald Reagan. I'm sure he's going to get along great with your activist character. Maybe they're dating. Anyway, looking forward to Thursday. It should be hella cool. I can't wait till what Jason throws at us. And then the next time we do a funnel, we'll do Weird Frontiers, right? Right? Anyway, talk to you later. In this next section, Jason Connerly is going to talk about pantheons and gods and his thoughts on it, which would be kind of a cool thing to revisit, maybe in our panel discussion. But I'll let you hear him out, and I will respond.
Portals go all the way back to at least OD&D and Arduin. In fact, later in my episode that's going to be released today, and I say today, I don't know when this episode will be released that you're playing this in, but I mean the 28th of November, I'll release an episode talking about Arduin. But yeah, so portals go back to the earliest days of the game. In fact, they're implied in OD&D and in like Castle Greyhawk and stuff. There are portals you could go to places like the Wizard of Oz and whatnot. The other thing you mentioned were like pantheons and religions. So to me, it's always weird to have multiple pantheons. It doesn't make any sense in my mind if God. It depends how powerful your gods are, I guess. But to me, I want the pantheons to be powerful. So to me, I can't see having multiple pantheons. So one pantheon for the whole world makes sense. But, and this is a big but here, I think you would have regional twists on all the deities. So I think you would have one set of deities, or one set of gods. Let me say this right. You have one set of gods, but they would be looked at in different regions. So just to take a real world example, you have one set of deities, but maybe Thor is, so you have one aspect, this warrior god, right? So maybe in Norse mythology, it's Tyr, and he's recognized as Tyr and worshipped as Tyr. In Greek or Roman mythology, it's Mars, or crap. What's the other name for Mars? That guy. Anyway, so if that makes sense, you know what I mean. If so, you would have just one set of deities, but each region would recognize them as their own individualized deities. Okay, that didn't come across very well. But my idea is that you would really only have one real set of gods. But every culture, of course, is going to view them through their own lens and might worship slightly different aspects of them. And the gods might even encourage this, to let cultures think they have individualized gods for their own mean, because the gods are fickle. And it might give people different powers. The clerics might get slightly different spells and all depending how they worship them. So, anyway, I hope that kind of makes sense. I was going to read you off a list of different war gods in real world pantheons and say, all these are the same thing. But hopefully you know what I'm talking about. The idea that Tyr and Mars are the same fellow, right? Or the same god, just worshipped slightly differently. And the same thing for Egyptian or Chinese war god, yada, yada. Anyway, that's kind of how I view it. Because otherwise, you get that weird D&D cosmology where you've got multiple pantheons, and then each one has their own little realm, and then you have this weird multiplanar. I never got into all the planes and all the weird, like Planescape and all that. Space Jammer is okay, but there's a Star Jammer. Anyway, I think Space Jammer. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. That was okay, but the whole Planescape thing was weird to me. I never got into that. Maddie, quit licking that. And anyway, so that's where I am on Pantheons. Obviously, it's your game, and you should run it what works for you. And I'm not saying other people should adopt this method I'm putting out. I'm just saying I think, to me, that seems like it would make the most sense and be most interesting to Jason. But that definitely doesn't mean that's how other people's games should work. So let me throw that caveat out there.
So I think I disagree a little bit with you. I feel like classically, except in the case of Romans and Greeks, there are different pantheons for different regions on Earth, right? There's Norse gods that developed independently of Greek and Roman gods that developed independently of Egyptian gods, those that were contemporary, I would say. And then there was even older pantheons, and then not to even mention Chinese and Japanese deities, or the Hindu, Indian, East Indian mythology is totally different. And then there are cultures like the Mongols who had like one god of thunder, right? So all the cultures on the earth had a different deities, and in like Greyhawk or the Forgotten Realms, there's a monoculture of deities. Everyone has the same deities across the board, right? So you have people worshiping Helm up in Waterdeep and Helm down in Cormyr, or whatever. So, it's one. I mean, the problem with the realms, as opposed to Greyhawk, is that there's a ton of gods, and that's a problem. There's like a god for every single little thing, right? And sometimes there's multiple gods that are representing or competing for the same portfolio, but that's another story. So there are other worlds, like, let's see, Kalamar, for example, does what you suggested, which is you have 9 or so different gods. Maybe there's more than 9. There's a host of gods. It's a monoculture of it's a pantheistic monoculture, but the gods are different, have different names or aspects depending on the region of the world that you're in. Same, I think, somewhat is what Kobold Press does with their Midgard world. So I would say the Pathfinder world, Golarion, also, one set of deities that spans the whole globe. They might be called something different somewhere, but they're the same set of deities. Now, Kobold Press does something in the middle, which I like. There are pantheons for each different region, but there's definitely overlap, whereby there's maybe one being that is a deity but is worshipped by a different name in a different mythology. And the best example I can think of is Hela in the Norse mythology Ortholog versus Hecate in the sort of Mediterranean cosmology or Mediterranean pantheon Ortholog. But I think they're regional deities too. That's what's kind of interesting and why it's an interesting blend in Midgard. There's a hierarchy of deities where some have masks, that's what they call it, where they have different aspects in different locations, or some are only a pantheon or only in the pantheon of a particular region, which I like that sort of hierarchy of deities. Like you have, demigods and greater gods, lesser gods. I think they tried to do that in 2nd edition with Forgotten Realms. I don't know if it was successful or not. In any case, really, I think I'm going to think of deities and I'm going to propose this when we get together for our Portals multi-world game discussion, is that deities are just powerful beings in the multiverse. And, right, so there's not going to be a central defining greater super god like they developed in the Forgotten Realms when they switched from 1st to 2nd edition during the Avatar War, which was super duper annoying, honestly, that there was like an overgod, some sort of powerful. So they're all going to be powerful space beings, because why not? That makes sense. They're all going to be like Marvel Universe's Asgardians. We think they're gods here on Earth because we're no better than the primates that we evolved from. So, and they are something much more powerful. So I think that's the way I'm going to treat it, just to make it more interesting. And that also means that you can have a ton of them all over the place, because they're just because there's some species in the universe that are as powerful as gods, but don't have gods. That's what I think. That's a kind of really cool discussion about pantheons. I don't know if I got all the terminology right. I'm sure someone will correct me, and that's okay. So I will talk to you guys all again. We got one more call from Jason after the little sound thing, and that is going to lead to hopefully something kind of cool.
Hey, Carl, Jason here. Just listened to Jackal's Session 0 and Other Tales, and wanted to comment about your idea with the dragon inn or serpent inn, or sorry, not familiar with that analogy, but or the story of which you speak. But yeah, that's an interesting way to do it. The other way to do it actually would be, well, I think we're actually, instead of continuing this topic here, because I do have another way I think would be cool to do it. How about we get together and do a different podcast where we have a panel discussion about this, and we get some key players together and we all discuss it in roundtable format. How about that? That's what I want to do. Let me know if you're on board.
Yeah, I think I agree. Let's table this to our panel discussion. And that was only one idea I had, was like this World Serpent Inn idea, or the Inn of Many Doors, something like that. The Well of Many Worlds, something interesting like that. But I think you had a cooler idea, which I will not spoil for people. I really liked your idea because it kind of blends not just fantasy and the fantasy trope of a multiverse, but something bigger. So I like the fact that you are doing that, but I don't want to spoil it. So hopefully you guys will hear about that in a panel discussion in the future. And I tried something different. I was playing with Audacity. Hopefully one of these days I'll get to you super duper podcaster recorders that do everything with one big long sequential, not broken up thing, audio file. But I was able to snip some other music that TJ Drennan, who does the music for this podcast, sent to me, that he gave me. So kind of a different variant on the Geomologist Presents music. So I hope you guys like that. And guess what? You get to hear TJ again in the outro. Takes out, TJ. And shit, I can't believe it's already December of 2021.